Today's lesson is Out of This World, The Strange Lives of Astronauts. Greetings, everyone. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're going to talk about people who live and work in space. Those are astronauts, but they kind of lead strange lives. Their lives are not like the lives of you and I should say. And indeed, we're going to be talking about the strange things that they have to do when they live in space.
Yes, astronauts don't live like other people, like common people, when they're in space because there are special preparations that they have to make to be able to live in that environment. However, the lives of astronauts can be described as being out of this world. So here, this phrase, out of this world, can mean extremely good. If something is out of this world, it means that it's really good. But astronauts also live part of the time out of this world because they're in space.
Indeed, and that's what we're going to be discussing in today's lesson. So let's start. Let's listen to the first part, and we'll come back to talk about it.
Out of This World, The Strange Lives of Astronauts. As children, many of us dream of being astronauts, floating in space, seeing Earth from millions of kilometers away, walking on the moon. However, not everything about being an astronaut is so glamorous. In reality, some of the things astronauts have to deal with are quite bizarre.
大家好，我们来介绍第一部分中的形容词 glamorous。它的意思是迷人的、令人向往的或是富有魅力的。例如 People may think modeling is all glamorous, but it's a lot of hard work. 人们可能认为做模特儿是很迷人的工作，但其实需要很多努力。又或者说 Liz dreams of having the glamorous life of an actress. Liz 梦想过着女明星般光鲜亮丽的生活。再来我们看到形容词 bizarre， 它的意思是怪异的或是古怪的。例如 Ted's bizarre behavior worried his friends. Ted 的怪异行为让他朋友很担心。又或者说The clown was wearing bizarre face paint at the circus. 那位小丑在马戏表演中涂上古怪的脸部彩绘。
As children, many of us dream of being astronauts, floating in space, seeing Earth from millions of kilometers away, walking on the moon. Yes, that's true. I remember when I was a kid, I was born in 1969, the year Neil Armstrong became the first person to travel to the moon and step foot on the moon. Astronauts were considered very special people. They were like celebrities and people looked up to them.
Exactly. So yes, sometimes when you're a kid and your parents or your teachers are asking you what you want to do with your life, a lot of people will say, oh, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a taxi driver. But some of us actually dream of being astronauts. And what astronauts can do is they can float in space, they can see Earth from millions of kilometers away, and they can be walking on the moon. That does sound like a lot of fun. Floating in space means you're not subject to the Earth's gravity. So yes, you can float in space. You can also see Earth from a long ways away. It looks like a big blue marble in a sea of black. And also, if you're lucky enough, you can actually walk on the moon. Only a handful of people have been able to do that so far.
Yes, and all of that sounds great. However, not everything about being an astronaut is so glamorous. So as we mentioned before, astronauts have this aura around them as being people who are celebrities, who are famous and get to do things that no one else gets to do. But their lives are not so glamorous. So something that's glamorous is attractive, but attractive in an exciting way. So we often use the word glamorous to describe people or places that are related to wealth and success. So celebrities are glamorous. They may lead glamorous lives. I could say, for instance, this actress looks really glamorous on TV, but in real life, she's just a normal person like everyone else.
Right, and of course, lots of people want to be movie stars or rock stars or to act on TV or in movies. So they do this because those careers are very glamorous, which means they are spectacular. Lots of people will see you and you will be famous. But the lives of astronauts are not so glamorous. In reality, some of the things astronauts have to deal with are quite bizarre. So in reality, if you want to talk about the truth, well, they have to do some rather unusual things in order to be astronauts. We're talking about the things that they have to deal with, the things they have to handle, the things they need to accept. These things are quite bizarre, and if something's bizarre, it's rather strange and unusual.
Yes, the word bizarre is often used to describe things or events. You could say something like, John's bizarre behavior really shocked everyone. He wasn't acting normally. Or you could say, the boy disappeared under bizarre circumstances. And that means that the circumstances under which the boy disappeared was very strange and unusual.
Exactly. Okay, so yes, indeed, the lives of astronauts could be considered quite bizarre. So you may want to reconsider after you hear what we have to say in today's program and in our next program as well. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about that they need to do that is unusual is how they sleep in space. Let's now listen to the second part and then we'll break this down for you.
Astronauts don't sleep in regular beds. The lack of gravity in space means that if you tried to lie on a bed, you'd simply float away. To prevent this, astronauts sleep in special sleeping bags that attach to the wall of their craft. What's more, they need to make sure that they have a constant flow of air around them. Without one, the carbon dioxide they breathe out while sleeping could form into a bubble around their heads, potentially suffocating them in their sleep.
第二部分我们看到单字 gravity， 它是名词，指的是重力或是地心引力。例如 Gravity on the moon is not as strong as it is on Earth. 月球上的重力不如地球上的重力大。或是 Gravity is the force that causes objects to fall toward Earth. 地心引力是导致物体落向地球的力。再来我们看到名词 craft， 指的是飞行器、航空器，也可以是船或是艇的意思。例如 A military craft flew over the sky. 一架军用飞机飞过天空。又或者说 The Weather Bureau warned that small crafts should stay close to shore. 气象局警告小船应留在岸边。接下来我们看到动词 suffocate， 它的意思是使窒息。例如 If you have to leave your dog in the car, open the windows a little bit so it won't suffocate. 如果你得把狗留在车上，把车窗打开一点，以免它窒息。又或者说 The smoke almost suffocated him to death. 浓烟差点使他窒息而死。
So the first thing about how astronauts live in space that's bizarre is the fact that astronauts don't sleep in regular beds. The lack of gravity in space means that if you tried to lie on a bed, you'd simply float away. So in space, there is no gravity. Gravity is the force that causes things to fall to the ground, or one planet or something, an object, to be attracted to another planet. So, for instance, according to legend, Sir Isaac Newton formulated the theory of gravity after watching an apple fall to the ground.
Another meaning of gravity would be the seriousness of a situation, how important it is. I could say, you're taking this situation too lightly. You don't understand the gravity of this situation. It's very important. You can't make jokes about it. And so it's a very difficult situation and we need to take it seriously. But here we're talking again about the force of objects in space that they have on each other. Of course, the Earth has gravity, otherwise we would all float off into space. And the moon has gravity, although it is not as strong as the gravity on Earth. So yes, indeed, because there's no gravity in space, you would simply float away if you tried to lie on a conventional bed. And to prevent this, to stop this from happening, happening to stop you from floating away, astronauts sleep in special sleeping bags that attach to the wall of their craft. If you go into space, of course, you need to be in some kind of spaceship, and we're describing that as a craft. You could say spacecraft, like the Apollo command module or the lunar module. Those are examples of spacecraft.
Yes, you can also say aircraft to refer to an airplane, and a craft can also be used to refer to a small boat. So craft is a general term that refers to a lot of different vehicles. And here, they have to sleep in sleeping bags that attach to the wall of their craft. What's more, they need to make sure that they have a constant flow of air around them. Without one, that is, without a constant flow of air around them, the carbon dioxide they breathe out while sleeping could form into a bubble around their heads, potentially suffocating them in their sleep. So carbon dioxide, first of all, is the gas that you breathe out when you breathe. You breathe in oxygen and you breathe out carbon dioxide. But because of the conditions in space, the carbon dioxide could remain around the person, form a bubble, and prevent them from breathing properly.
Exactly. So again, carbon dioxide is CO2. And yes, when you exhale, you are exhaling carbon dioxide. And yes, that carbon dioxide, that gas, could kind of stick around you and form a bubble. It would be around your head. Now, a bubble, of course, is some kind of circular, spherical gas or objects. Like you blow bubbles, of course, when you're a kid. In this particular case, you would have a bubble or a certain amount of this gas forming around your head, and it could potentially suffocate you. Now, potentially means it has the possibility of happening in the future. You could say someone has potential. Hey, your kid is really good at playing the piano. He has the potential of being a concert pianist in the future. But here, potentially is being used as an adverb. And yes, this situation could potentially suffocate you. If you're suffocated, that means you don't get enough air to breathe and you die.
Right. So when you use the word potentially, you can also use it with other adjectives like potentially dangerous, potentially useful, potentially harmful, which just means that something isn't dangerous, useful, or harmful right now, but it has the possibility of being so in the future.
Right, so that's the reason why they can't sleep on normal beds in space. First of all, they would float away. They need to sleep in special sleeping bags that are attached to the wall of their craft. And they also have to have this constant flow of air around them because the carbon dioxide could form a bubble and suffocate them potentially while they're sleeping. And we certainly don't want that to happen to our beloved astronauts who work in space because our tax dollars are paying for their trip up there. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's listen now to the third and final part.
Astronauts can't shower. In space, water doesn't flow down like it does on Earth, so showers are out of the question. Instead, astronauts have to clean themselves by using damp towels to wipe off any dirt. In the early days of space travel, in fact, many astronauts did not wash at all, meaning that they stank pretty bad when they got home.
第三部分我们看到片语 out of the question， 指的是某事不可能的或是不被允许的。例如 Taking a vacation this year is out of the question if we want to save money to buy a house. 如果我们想存钱买房子，今年是不可能去度假的。或是 I have invested too much in this company, so me jumping ship is out of the question right now. 我在这家公司投资太多了，所以现在要抽手是不可能的。再来，我们看到形容词 damp， 这个字的意思是潮湿的、微湿的或是湿气的。例如I put my clothes back in the dryer because they were still a little damp. 我把衣服放回烘衣机里，因为它们还有点潮湿。或是 Ross's hair was still damp from walking in the rain. Ross 因为在雨中走路，所以头发还是湿的。最后我们看到单字 stink， 它是动词，它有发臭或是散发出难闻气味的意思。例如 The rotting trash in the alleyway stank. 小巷子里的那些垃圾腐烂发臭了。又或者说 Please take out the garbage before it starts to stink. 请在垃圾开始发臭前把它拿出去。
And here's one more fact about being an astronaut, the bizarre way in which they live in space. Astronauts can't shower. So in space, water doesn't flow down like it does on Earth because of gravity or the lack of gravity. So showers are out of the question. In other words, they're not able to take showers. When something is out of the question, it means that it's definitely not possible or allowed to happen. So, for example, if a kid asks his or her mother, "Can I have a piece of cake before dinner?" the mother might say, "That's out of the question. You have to eat your dinner first before you can have your dessert."
Or when I was in high school, I had the desire of asking Dawn out on a date, and I asked my friend, "Do you think she'll go out with me?" And my friend said, "That's out of the question. She's totally out of your league. You better forget that idea right now." But here, of course, we're talking about bathing in space. And of course, lots of people bathe differently. You can take a bath, which means you fill your bathtub up with water and then you soak yourself in the water and wash yourself off that way. That takes a little time and it probably uses too much water. And the other way you can bathe is by taking a shower. Now, notice in the title here, we're using the word shower as a verb. Most often people will say, take a shower. I'm going to take a shower before I go to bed because I'm all hot and sticky from being out in the hot weather. And I want to have a nice sleep tonight. I want to have a good night's sleep. So I'm going to take a shower. And yes, indeed, astronauts cannot take a shower in space. And it says here in space, water doesn't flow down like it does on Earth, so showers are out of the question. When you talk about water moving in a certain direction, you can say flow, okay? So water flows in rivers. Water in rivers flow toward the sea. And of course, when you're taking a shower, water will flow down from the spigot down onto your body, and then you can clean yourself.
Yes, so astronauts can't shower or they can't take showers in space. So what are they going to do? Are they going to remain dirty and smelly for the duration of their stay in space? No, instead, astronauts have to clean themselves by using damp towels to wipe off any dirt. So what they do is they use a towel that's damp. Something that's damp is slightly wet. So the towel isn't soaked in water. It's not dripping with water. It's just slightly wet. And they use that towel to wipe off any dirt. So when you wipe off your body or any surface, you are removing any dirt or water or any substance from that surface.
Right, so damp means slightly wet. You might have damp hair after you take a shower, so you probably need to blow dry your hair before you go to bed. A similar word is moist. Okay, that means it contains some moisture. And then another similar word is humid. Humid, of course, is what we describe, or the word we use to describe weather that has a lot of moisture in the air, which happens a lot here in Taiwan because it's a semi-tropical country. And of course, it can be quite humid during the summer. Some people like that, some people don't. I'm okay with the humidity, although it does get kind of extreme sometimes, but here we're talking about slightly wet towels. They're damp or they're moist, and they use these towels to wipe off any dirt. So they just simply wipe themselves off. I don't even think they put on any soap.
Maybe they don't need soap in space. So they do wipe themselves off with a damp towel. And after that, they are relatively clean. So in the early days of space travel, in fact, many astronauts did not wash at all. So before they started using damp towels, they didn't even wash. They didn't bother, meaning that they stank pretty bad when they got home. So after having stayed in space for weeks or months without a shower, without wiping themselves even with a damp towel, they came back to Earth, to their families, stinking pretty bad. So here the word stank is the past tense of stink, which means to smell bad or to give off an unpleasant odor.
Of course, nowadays, astronauts go into space for long periods of time. Maybe they're going to be spending some time in the International Space Shuttle, so they are going to have to bathe themselves once in a while. So if they want to do that, they will use damp towels to wipe off any dirt. Now, remember, shorter missions like the Apollo missions to the moon. Those guys were in space maybe for 7 days or so, and they probably thought, well, we're going to smell, we're going to stink when we get back, but hey, we don't have shower facilities inside our spacecraft, so that's just tough luck. When we get back to Earth and people smell us, they're going to think we reek, that we really smell bad, that we stink, but hey, that's the price you pay to explore space.
That's true. So, as we can see, the lives of astronauts are not so glamorous. They do have to go through some pretty tough situations, like not being able to take a shower and not being able to sleep in regular beds. And those are just a few of the things that astronauts have to go through because of their profession.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. And now it's time to listen to Hanny, our beloved Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。首先看到标题 Out of this world, the strange lives of astronauts。 好，那这边它用到 out of this world 是带有双关语义，一个是字面上的意思，就是在这个世界之外，然后用来带出这篇文章的相关主题外太空。那另外一个意思呢，则是指说极好非常棒的，用来表达说在外太空是一件很棒的事，所以有这样双关语义。那我们其实也可以用 out of this world 来造这样的例句，像 The steak was out of this world， 那个牛排真是太好吃了。好，那再来顺便补充几个跟 world 相关的用语哦。第一个，我们可以用 the world 来指一切 everything 的那种意思。那当我们用 mean the world to somebody， 字面意思是对某人来说意味着全世界，也就是说对某人意义重大，非常重要。像是当爸妈的可能会说 My children mean the world to me， 我的孩子们就是我的一切。好，那第二个补充的相关用语是 worlds apart 或者是 world apart， 它表示截然不同，天差地远。我们现在如果要表达说 A 和 B 差很多，天差地远，这个用法会有两种，一个是你可以用 A is a world apart from B， 那第二个是 A and B are worlds apart。好，举例来说 Jane and her sister are worlds apart in their personalities。 Jane 跟她的姐姐个性截然不同。好，那第三个补充的相关用语是 for the world， 它搭配否定词的时候呢，是指无论如何都不怎么样，绝对不怎么样怎么样。好，那么 for the world 是用来加强语气。举例来说I'll definitely be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world. 我一定会到场，说什么我都不会错过的。好，再看到课文第二部分最后一句，有一个动词是 suffocate， 它表示窒息或是使什么窒息。好，那这边我们来介绍一下字首 sub， 它之后接了 c、f 或是 g 或是 p 等等，那么依序呢，它就会变形为 suc 或是 suf 或是 sug。SUP， 那这个字首呢，它可以表达出下方或者是附属的意思。好，那我们看到在 suffocate 这个字当中，它的字首 SUF 来自 SUB 嘛，它表示下方。那么 FOC 是喉咙， ATE 是动词字尾。同学们可以想象，东西卡在喉咙下方可能会造成窒息，所以呢 suffocate 它就可以表达窒息或是使什么窒息。那顺便补充两个有这一类字首的单字，第一个是 suppress， 它的字首 SUP 来自 SUB， 表示向下下方。那么字根 press 它表示压，当我们把某事物往下压，把它压在下方，这样应该可以联想到 suppress 它有压制、抑制、镇压的意思。第二个补充的是 succumb， 它的字首 SUC 来自 SUB， 表示向下下方。然后呢 CUMB 这部分表示躺下。好，那如果直接躺平不抵抗了，应该就可以联想到 succumb 它有屈从、屈服、放弃抵抗的意思。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Bizarre. Today I read a bizarre news story about a dog that got bit by a man. Gravity. As the rocket escaped the effects of Earth's gravity, the astronauts began to float. Craft. When one of the airplane's engines failed, the pilot of the craft decided to land it as soon as possible. Potentially. Sarah's new restaurant could potentially open as soon as next month. Damp. Kurt took the damp clothes from the washing machine and hung them up to dry. Stink. The garbage can begin to stink after sitting in the sun all day.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.